Stop for a second and forget the drone battle. Forget the firefights in Ukraine. Forget the explosions. Taylor Sheridan hid the biggest mystery of the Lioness Season 3 premiere in plain sight, and almost everyone missed it. The opening scene wants us to focus on Joe being kidnapped, but that's not the real question. The real question is, why wasn't she killed? Think about it. Joe is one of the CIA's most dangerous operatives. If an enemy finally gets close enough to reach her, why waste that opportunity trying to capture her? Why not eliminate her immediately? Then, 6 months earlier, another team arrives at her house pretending to be state police. Once again, they don't use the fastest or easiest method. They come to the front door, they force their way inside, they get close. 2 separate attacks, the exact same objective. That isn't a coincidence. Episode 1 quietly reveals that Joe is worth far more alive than dead, and the clue has been sitting in front of us since the Ukraine mission. Before we dive into the theory, here's a quick recap. If you're new here and you love hidden details, ending explained videos, and theories that go beyond the obvious, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel, and unlike Joe's cover identity, your subscription stays classified. The episode opens with one of the happiest moments we've ever seen in Joe McNamara's life. She's training at home, eating breakfast with Neil and the girls, and enjoying a rare moment of peace. That peace lasts only minutes before she's surrounded on the road, boxed in by 2 vehicles, and taken. The story then jumps back 6 months, where Joe leads a dangerous operation deep inside Ukraine to capture Russian intelligence officer Alexei Yurimov. Against impossible odds, the team succeeds and extracts him safely. But when Joe finally returns home, 2 men pretending to be state police try to force their way into her house. Joe kills both of them, calls for backup, and says 2 words that immediately stand out: "I'm blown." Now here's where the episode starts telling a completely different story. Look closely at how both attacks unfold. The men at Joe's house don't park down the street and open fire. They don't place an explosive under her car. They don't wait until she steps outside. They walk directly to the front door. They create a conversation. They try to get Joe to leave the safety of her home. When that fails, they force their way inside. That's not the quickest way to assassinate someone. It's the quickest way to get close enough to control them. 6 months later, the opening scene follows the exact same pattern. Joe's vehicle isn't destroyed, it's blocked. She's surrounded, overwhelmed, and physically taken. The objective hasn't changed. Whoever is behind these attacks doesn't simply want Joe dead. They want Joe herself. That changes everything about the Ukraine mission. Sheridan quietly places one line in the middle of the operation that deserves far more attention. Joe questions why Alexei Yurimov, a high-value Russian intelligence officer, is being protected by inexperienced North Korean soldiers instead of elite Russian operators. It's an odd detail, and Joe notices it immediately. The episode never answers that question because it's asking the audience to keep thinking about it. If Yurimov was truly that valuable, his security doesn't make sense. But if someone wanted the CIA to capture him, suddenly everything falls into place. The mission succeeds because someone wanted it to succeed. Now ask yourself another question. What happened after Joe captured Yurimov? She removed his tracking beacon. She escorted him out. She spent time questioning him. She became one of the few people directly connected to one of Russia's most valuable intelligence assets. That's the moment the story changes. The premiere never shows us every conversation Joe had after the extraction. It never tells us exactly what Yurimov knew, what he revealed, or what intelligence passed through Joe during those missing 6 months. Sheridan leaves that space intentionally blank. The audience is supposed to wonder what happened after the mission, not just during it. That missing information may be the reason Joe becomes the target. Notice something else. Joe never reacts like someone surprised by random violence. After killing the fake officers, she doesn't waste time asking who they were or what they wanted. She immediately realizes the bigger picture. She says, "I'm blown." Those 2 words reveal that Joe understands something the audience doesn't yet know. She realizes the attack isn't isolated. It's connected to her work, her recent mission, and something far larger already in motion. The opening kidnapping suddenly takes on a completely different meaning. The enemy isn't grabbing Joe because she's another CIA officer. They're grabbing the one person who stood at the center of an operation that still hasn't been fully explained. Joe isn't simply carrying a gun or classified documents. She may be carrying knowledge about Yurimov, about the operation in Ukraine, or about a larger plan that hasn't surfaced yet. The premiere never tells us exactly what that knowledge is. but it repeatedly shows that multiple groups are willing to risk everything just to get close to her. That also explains why the story begins with the kidnapping instead of ending with it. Sheridan wants viewers asking the wrong question. We spend the entire episode wondering who took Joe, while the episode quietly keeps pointing us towards a much more important mystery. Why is Joe suddenly the most valuable person in the room? Every major scene feeds that mystery. The peaceful breakfast reminds us she has something worth taking away. Ukraine shows the mission that changed everything. The fake police reveal someone has already started hunting her. And the opening scene confirms the hunt eventually succeeds. Episode 1 doesn't just introduce the season's biggest mystery. It tells us exactly where to look. Not at the kidnappers. Not at the guns. Not even at the battlefield. The answer has been hidden inside the Ukraine mission all along. Whatever happened there transformed Joe from the hunter into the prize. And until the truth about that mission is revealed, the real reason she was kidnapped will remain the biggest secret in Lioness Season 3. One final clue sits in the episode's title itself, the Drone Temple. At first glance, it sounds like it's describing the battlefield in Ukraine, where hundreds of drones fill the sky. But the title carries another meaning. A temple is a place where something is worshipped. And in this episode, information has become more valuable than soldiers. The drones aren't just weapons. They're eyes. Every movement is tracked. Every position is monitored. Every decision is recorded. Joe survives the firefight, but she can't escape the invisible network watching her every move. The battlefield ends, but the surveillance doesn't. By the time she returns home, someone already knows where she lives, when she arrived, and how to reach her. That makes the drone battle feel less like an action sequence and more like the moment Joe unknowingly stepped into a much larger game. Then there's the 6-month gap, and Sheridan doesn't include a jump like that without a reason. He skips over the most important part of the story because that's where the mystery lives. What happened between the successful extraction of Yurimov and Joe being kidnapped? Those missing months are the season's biggest blind spot. Someone had enough time to study Joe's routines, identify her weak points, and plan 2 separate operations against her. Whatever unfolded during that gap is almost certainly more important than the mission itself. Sheridan isn't hiding the timeline to confuse the audience. He's hiding it because the missing pieces contain the answer to why Joe became the target. If episode 1 has already revealed one truth, it's this. Joe isn't being hunted because she failed. She's being hunted because she succeeded. Capturing Alexei Yurimov set events in motion that nobody on Joe's team fully understood. The mission everyone celebrated may turn out to be the operation that placed a target on her back. That would make the opening kidnapping more than just the beginning of Season 3. It would be the delayed consequence of a victory that was never really a victory at all. And if that's true, the biggest twist still hasn't happened. It's waiting inside those missing 6 months, where the real story has yet to be told.